Let's do it. Let's do it. Hot dog. Hot dog. Or bacon, as the case may be. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. What are we going to do today? Actually, we do have something in mind for today. It is going to be underwhelming. Even more underwhelming than normal. But that's okay. That's okay. Oh, I like this clock. How did that get there? It tells me the time and how much time before show. Wow. Did you guys come in overnight and fix this? You never know. You never know. Never know, never know, never know. Let's see. Big shout out to Petra. Who is heading to IBC next month on behalf of vMix. You guys are going to have a ball, I know. I know Maggie's going to be on her way, and she's going to hook up with Jan and Marie. And what else? I'm going to miss you guys. Not making the trip this time. We'll have to see how it goes in the future. In the future. In the future. But we got some cool stuff going on here, so it'll be fun. So, yeah, today is sort of part 2 of the point-to-point wireless thing from last week. That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. And then I got a couple of war stories, too. So that'll be fun. I mean, what would life be without war stories, right? OF TV, welcome. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. Japs, I like it. Someone's starting the stream early, so you can take the rest. You can take the rest of the night off. And yeah, we're trying again, trying to make things happen, trying to get the ball rolling. Get the ball rolling. I got a story to tell, and I really want to tell it, but I want to wait till the show to tell it, so I have to wait. But I will. Let me get the collar right, and get the shirt right. If you pull down the shirt at your belt in the back, it helps smooth out your shoulders, and provides fewer wrinkles. Now there'll still be some wrinkles, but fewer wrinkles. I was playing with the chroma key today, and it was spot on. Lighting is a big deal, but good cameras are a big deal too. I've been kind of doing an experiment here with the Bird Dog P400, which is a 4K camera, and I'm noticing the camera's a little crooked. And excuse me. And so this live stream is actually in 4K. I don't know if you noticed it. And it may depend on your bandwidth, whether you're getting 4K. I mean, you don't have to see me in 4K, but it's kind of fun to play with. So we always want to try the new tricks. 103 degrees in Texas. Otis, you're smoking. Probably. Holy cow. Yeah, we had rain last night and rain this morning. And I think there may be more rain on the way. It's overcast here, so it's in the 70s. It's yeah. So I've been learning about resistors and is it thermistors? Thermistas? It's a heat sensitive kind of resistor. Anyway, that's been fun. Like learning new stuff. And Johnny from Manila, welcome. Glad to have you. What brings you this way? You just stumbling around the internet and stumbled on us? What in Manila? Let's see. Manila. It must be early in the morning in Manila. Holy cow. And let's see what else. Yeah, we got I got it. I want to tell that story. It's such a fun story. And we'll get to it. It's got to be patient, Tom. You can't pull out all your tricks at once. No, we were talking about 4K. So this is kind of an experiment, a long-term experiment with 4K. How does 4K look? How does it stream? I've got a 20 megabit upstream here at the studio. Checked it this morning. 20 is what I pay for. 20 is what I get. So I'm glad to have that. 3 a.m. Oh my gosh. Go back to bed, dude. This show is not going to be worth it. Or else you haven't made it to bed yet. That's like me. I'm a late nighter. 3 a.m. Holy cow. Well, thank you. Appreciate you staying up or getting up early anyway. Keep your expectations low. That's all I'm going to say. Keep your expectations low. Clint's from the bluegrass state. Otis is from the dried up grass state. Did you see, Clint? It's 103 in Texas today. I guess that's the Houston area. Holy cow. Welcome, Clint. Glad to have you. Clint and I actually had an opportunity to meet in person at NAB several years ago. That was a treat. I relished that treat. And Otis and I have met in person. Jan and I have met in person. So it's been fun to meet you guys in person. And I want to get up the road and see Tommy. Maybe I can do that next week. No, I can't do that next week. I'm on the road next week. Okay, we got a minute and a half here. Somebody came in. It must have been me. It had to have been me to fix that. Anyway, so we're doing 4K on YouTube because YouTube will let us do 4K and it will re-encode the stream for you based on your bandwidth. So somehow it senses your bandwidth and sends you a stream that is appropriate for your speed, your download. Now, sometimes I think that YouTube is probably a little conservative in how they figure out what your speed is. Welcome. Help me with the pronunciation of your first name. Is it Heiken? Is that close? Anyway, so YouTube may be sending you 720. They might be sending you 1440. They might be sending you 1080. Could be, what would it be? 720, 480, 320, 240, 144 would be about the slowest and the lowest they would go. So, hey, Ray, glad to have you. Muncie, Indiana. We were comparing temperatures just a little while ago, and Otis is down in Houston. It's 103 degrees Fahrenheit there today. I assume it's sunny. It's 97 in Kentucky. Holy cow. Now, Clint, are you confessing or are you bragging? Because it's only 77 here, or at least it was earlier. I haven't checked it lately, but it's really pleasant. Of course, it's overcast and it rained last night. And the humidity's low, which is really, really? Well, that clears it up. See, here in the U.S., in the English language, or at least in Alabama, when we have a letter, like an A, that has some sort of symbol above it, we're clueless what that means. So you're going to have to help me out anymore. Is an A with a circle above it, what we would call the degree sign? Is that a pronounced like an I, like I, or maybe like a hard A, like A, or a soft A, like ah, or some sort of combination there. Ray's working hard. It's in the 90s there in Muncie, Indiana. Glad to have it. Glad to have it. All right, let's see. You know what? It's showtime. It's showtime. So sit tight. We're going to get this show on the road. I've got a button for that. Here it is, right here, I think. Yes. It's always a little bit of a surprise to me, or a bonus, that everything works right. So I'm chuckling because I'm watching the chat, and one of my new friends from Sweden is trying to help me pronounce his name, and he's going to Google it. All right, there we go. All right, that's right. That's good. Maybe Google will get it in an American pronunciation. It's H-A, and it's the A with the circle over it, K-A-N. So you'll have to help me with that one. Not good with names to begin with. Not good with pronunciation to begin with. And you guys want to, yeah, that's all right. No, glad to have you. We were talking in pre-show that, yeah, we're doing the show in 4K, not because, there's so much to look at here, but just because we can, and we want to play with it. So the specs today are that we are streaming at 14 megs, breaking the rules there because I've only got 20 megs upload. Remember, the general rule of thumb is don't use more than 50% of your available test bandwidth. Available tested bandwidth. And we're using 70% of our available tested bandwidth. So we've only got a 30% cushion. Now, the good news is that we have, well, it's not good news that we have AT&T here, but we have AT&T here. And the good news is that AT&T connection is rock solid. I don't find that it dips. We used to have a cable company called Mediacom, and man, they would be all over we were getting supposedly gigabit service. This was back in the early days of gigabit. And if we got 100 megs down, we were happy. And we were paying for, $9.50 or whatever a gigabit supposedly is. So to get 20 megs up consistently here, consistency is so important because you can plan on that. If something is irregular, then you have to plan on irregularity. And in this case, the rule of thumb using 50% of your available tested bandwidth, and yes, I did do a speed test this morning. In fact, we have a speed test coming up in just a minute on our point-to-point wireless system. We did a speed test this morning to make sure that we could bring you this 4K edition. Now, this is a BirdDog P400 going NDI. Now, I noticed in the pre-show that I was dropping a few frames. I didn't have time to reset the network, reset the internet connection, kind of reset everything. When you're counting on something crossing your network like video from a BirdDog camera, and you're having problems, the first troubleshooting technique is just restart everything. Don't turn your computer off and turn it back on. That's not the same thing as restarting. Actually, restarting is even better than turning it off and turning it on. Did you know that? I was reading this the other day, that when you restart your computer, you force the computer to go back and get fresh everything. Load the drivers again, all the settings, all that kind of thing. But when you turn it off, shut it down, and then turn it back on, if you have fast boot enabled, which most people do by default and don't even know it, when you have fast boot enabled, it takes the settings that you were using yesterday and it uses them today instead of refreshing them. So a restart is going to be better than a reboot. So if you're having trouble, don't shut everything down. I mean, yeah, you can shut everything down, but don't shut your PC down. Restart your PC. Take the power out of your modem, your router, your switch, your camera. Count to 10 at least, because a lot of those devices have got little capacitors in them that will hold a charge. And you notice sometimes when you unplug something, the lights are still on after you unplug it. That's those capacitors that are discharging. And what you want is for them to discharge completely so that when you plug it back in, you get a fresh start. There you go. So a fresh start. All right. So the A with the circle over it would sound like the O part in the U.S. word go. Hoken, got it. Love it. Welcome. Glad you're here. We're going to go with that, okay? And you can call me any version of Tom you want to. Anyway, so having dropped frames earlier, restarted. No, I didn't restart anything. I didn't have time. So I went to the control panel for the camera, which is the IP address. And I didn't remember the IP address, but I pulled up a Studio Monitor, NDI Studio Monitor, found the camera on that, clicked the settings button, took me to a web page, which was the IP address, typed in bird dog, which is the password, and went to the, oh golly, don't remember what tab it was. It was like AV setup or something like that, and where I had an opportunity to select from where NDI would manage the bit rate that I was sending from the camera to the PC, or where I could set a fixed bit rate from the camera to the PC. And so I clicked on the fixed option, and I think I took it down to about 120 megabits per second. Now that's pretty low for 4K, 120 megabits per second, but it did clear up the drop frames. Let me check the statistics here. And yeah, since I reset this like an hour ago, it's had like 600 dropped frames. But compared to the webcams had 24,000 dropped frames, and my PTZ Optics NDI HX camera, which you'll see in just a minute, has had 3,200 dropped frames, and my BirdDog P100, had to check it for just a second, has dropped 16 frames. So there you go. So I'm looking in the statistics in vMix, and that's in the bottom right-hand corner of the vMix interface. Quick story, and then let's get into the point-to-point wireless. So I'm keeping my eye on chat. Hoken, glad to have you. Glad to have you. So I have a customer who will go unnamed, but he lives in Texas, and he does rodeo. And he's been a great customer. We've built 3 or 4 computer systems for him over the years, and enjoy working with him. And we text. I'll get a text from him at 7 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock at night, weekends, whatever, and I'm happy to answer the text, because generally he's in the middle of a gig when he's texting me and he needs an answer to a question. And his text went something like this: I am getting, vMix is crashing on me. And I'm thinking, no way, vMix doesn't crash on anybody. But he's like, vMix is crashing on me. on a PC that you built for me. Oh gosh, here we go. What did I do this time? And he described that when he's doing a lot of instant replays. This is rodeo, and so it's barrel racing and roping and whatever else they do with rodeo. You get the idea. Just Google rodeo if you don't know. Texas rodeo. And he said, we're using instant replay. And you can, and in vMix, when you use instant replay, you can take one of your clips. You make clips, and then you play the clips back, and you can vary the speed of the clip when it plays back. But you can also take that same clip and you can export it out of vMix Instant Replay to use with like social media. So you could take a 5-second clip and export it to Twitter or Twitch or Facebook or something like that and saying, this just happened, come watch us here, blah, blah, blah. And what he wanted to do was to export a clip as an MP4 file. An MP4 is a common video format, highly compressed, so it tends to be smaller. vMix, I think, gives you the opportunity of exporting an AVI, or it might be a vMix AVI, which is slightly a proprietary format of AVI, which is a really big file, but it's really light for vMix to work with because vMix is sort of optimized to work with the vMix AVI, but that's a story for another day. He was trying to export this MP4 clip, and as soon as he hit the export button, vMix would just go away. And I'm like, there is no way. There's no way. And I said, it's probably a hard drive problem. I mean, probably the second drive. I think the system he had maybe 3 solid state drives in it. A main drive, a data drive, and then this replay scratch drive. And I said, switch over to the other drive. Happened on the other drive too. I said, try it on the main drive. Happened on the main drive. I'm like, crap. And I said, let me go in. Let me remote in. So I remoted in and updated Windows and updated the video card driver and, the standard stuff that you do to kind of clear the decks before you, the standard stuff I do to clear the decks before I do any troubleshooting. I want to make sure that I'm on a known solid surface, a known foundation. Windows update, vMix update if needed. And I think he might have been a dot update or 2 behind, and then the graphics card. I don't worry too much about any of the other drivers, but occasionally you have to. And even after doing that, he was still having the problems. I was like, okay, bundle it up, send it back to me. Obviously a hardware fault somewhere. I'll take it apart and find out. And this system was one that I had built for him, I guess about 2 or 3 years ago, that is a different footprint. It's what they used to call a lunchbox computer. And these actually were really, really hard shell portable computers. We built them, and we actually didn't build them. I bought them used in an auction. Bought a lot of them. A whole bunch of them is a lot, but in this case, a lot is an auction. I think there were 12 or 15 of them. I don't remember, because I wanted the cases, and I still have a few left over. If you're interested in buying one, let me know. I'll sell you just the case. But it's metal clad. Everything is metal clad. It's a solid aircraft aluminum chassis. It was really built to endure, rough environments. And a rodeo is a pretty rough environment. Not that it was riding a bull, but that, bulls and horses stir up a lot of dust. So when the machine got here, it was covered with dust. Sorry, Bud, but it was covered with dust. And his name's really not Bud. And as I took it apart, it was a lot of dust on the inside. So I'm thinking, okay, it's just overheating. That's why it has all these problems. So I got my can of compressed air and spraying up all this dust. And of course, it's all over my studio now, the work area. And I thought, I think that the video card is probably you know how it's got the little fins in the video card. I bet all those fins are covered with dust. So I pulled it. Now this is a compact computer, so everything is crammed in there and just really, really tight spaces. And video card in particular, I had made sure that the power didn't come off, so I hot glued the connectors to it. Here I am trying to give you a visual picture of what it looked like. So I had to take all of that apart, pull the video card out, you know, spray out the PCIe slot with all the dust that was in that, spray off the video card, clouds of dust going everywhere. Said, you know, I bet the CPU cooler is the same way. So I pulled the CPU cooler off, you know, sprayed it, dust everywhere, and, you know, cleaned the whole thing up. Just cleaned anything I could get my hands on. And then put it all back together nice and fresh. And I said, this is great. I got it fixed. Here we go. Boom. Same symptom. Like, man, this just, excuse me, but this sucks. So what did I do? I emailed vMix. Bud and I had emailed vMix a while back about this problem, and they'd responded and said, you know, reseat the graphics card and update the driver and let us know. And I wasn't going to ask him to reseat the graphics card, so that was the first thing I did. Cleaned everything, reseated the graphics card, updated the driver. Still didn't work. So I picked up on that email thread, carried on and explained, and they said, well, you know, do this, do that, do the other. And then at one point they said, okay, take this file and move it to a different place and try it there. So I'm like, okay, good. We're making some progress in our diagnosis. And so we did that. Same problem happened. And they said, okay, take that file, zip it up, put it on a thumb drive, try it on a different PC that's you've never tried it on before. I said, okay, good. I'm going to bring it here on my studio PC. Brought it in on my studio PC, crashed immediately. I'm thinking, Oh, and Bud told me that when he sent me the 2-year-old portable PC to be fixed, he had already bought another system from me that I had just shipped to him. And he sent me a text. He said, yeah, this problem's happening on the system you just shipped me to. And I'm like, oh man, it happens on the one from 2 years ago. It happens on the one that I shipped you, and it happens on mine. It must be me. It must be something that I'm doing wrong systematically that is a problem. So I became heavily invested in getting this, finding out whatever somebody could tell me about this problem. And so vMix said, okay, send us the file. So I put it in a Dropbox, sent them a link to a Dropbox, and within, I don't know, maybe 6 hours, I got a response saying, we've found what the problem is. It's a bug in vMix. It's a random, oddball bug. We were doing something that we shouldn't have been doing, and that was causing vMix to have an unexpected result, which was it just shut down. And what we were doing was, and they fixed it, by the way, they fixed it like 6 hours. They sent me the email saying, this is what the problem is. We'll have to get it fixed. And within an hour, I checked the vMix website, and they'd already uploaded a fix for it. That was .33, I think. 25.0.0.34 is the current version. .33 came out like end of last week or something like that. And I think 34 came out the day after with a different issue being addressed. But the problem was that we were using an audio source for the clip was camera 1, and camera 1 had no audio. So it was just a silent clip. And that was crashing vMix. And vMix fixed it immediately. It was an obscure kind of, nobody ever does this. Nobody's, I think I may have canceled bud to do this. Nobody's ever stupid enough to counsel anybody to do this, but I did. And we found a bug. Now, there is no reward for finding a bug. We only found it. We didn't fix it. We just found it, and it kind of found us for being stupid. But it was an amazing experience to go through that with vMix tech support. Oh, and the other interesting thing is if you go to the vMix website and you look at any of their recent tutorials, you'll see that Heath is now a part of the team. And generally in the past, Tim would do most of the tutorials, but Heath is doing a lot of them now. And in fact, the vMix Fun Time Live show are mostly Heath and Tim nowadays. Martin makes a cameo appearance every now and then, but he's busy behind the scenes with vMix 26, we would expect. And so I was corresponding with Heath, was doing a lot of the correspondence. And I think there was one that I sent. It was maybe in the morning here in the U.S., so that was going to be the middle of the night in Australia, and I got a response within an hour or two. Well, that was Greg from Canada. Had the opportunity to meet Greg at NAB back in April in Las Vegas. Delightful individual. If you ever have correspondence with him, know that you're talking to a really quality fellow who knows his stuff. And so Greg had picked right up where Heath had left off. And so for a period of about a day and a half, we were getting essentially a 24-hour support from vMix on the emails back and forth. And Heath would pass it off to Greg, and then Greg would pass it back to Heath, and then we got it fixed, and then they got it. I mean, then we found out what it was, and then they got it fixed, and then we got ours fixed and updated all the PCs, and the problem went away. So I shipped it back to him. And that's the end of the story. But it was a neat little adventure, and I was happy to have been on that adventure and to have helped out my client in the process. Now, if you are one of my clients, either because you purchased vMix from me or because you purchased a system from me that had vMix on it, and you're having problems, number one, don't keep me in the dark. Number two, don't keep vMix in the dark. Number three, if you correspond with vMix by email, send me a carbon copy and let me kind of look over your shoulder and make sure that what you're describing is really what you're describing. Because sometimes people will say, they'll use the wrong words, and they won't use the right terminology. And so the tech support folks, maybe they're taking somebody at their word for the words they're using. And so there have been a couple times when I would have been able to say, well, what they mean more precisely is XYZ, not ABC. So there we go. All right. That was story time. So let's go and take a look at our point-to-point wireless system. We have reconfigured here in the studio. So the first point I want to show you is this point. And what you will see there, let's get this URL, get all that stuff off the screen. What you'll see there next to the TV, to the left of the TV, is that's the master. And let me go over and point to it. Right there. That's the master. And let's see. I need to show you where the host is. Well, let's go back to that shot, and then we'll just pan the camera. There we go. Let's pan the camera so that we can get you back to the shot. Panning around the studio. Oh, we're not going to be able to make it. We got to go the other way. Studio's a wreck today, but then it's a working studio. And there, right there is the slave. Now, in reading the documentation, I wasn't really happy with the terminology master and slave last week. What I realized, because they refer to themselves as H and C, but in the documentation it says master and slave. Well, H and C, as you probably already know, are H for host and C for client. So we're going to refer to these as host and client now. The client is this little guy right here. Whoops, there he is. That's the client. And the host is that guy right there. And I've just got him zip tied to the pole over there. And the cord that comes out the bottom is going to, is going to his little power brick. You can see the little blue light on the back of it. The white cord is going up to the host, and the pink cord is going to my internet here in the studio. And so, interesting. Let's go back around to the other one and go back up. I've just quick and dirty got him zip tied. And let's go in. That's him right there. And as you can see, again, one white cable down to the power brick. And you can see there is a black cable coming out of the power brick. The white cable is going up to the client, and that's carrying power, PoE, and carrying signal. And then the black is the signal. And that black signal is going into, hold on, bear with me. Should have had these shots pre-configured. Oh, actually I do have it pre-configured. Never mind. Here it is right here. Got it into my laptop. And generally the laptop is on Wi-Fi. But I've disabled the Wi-Fi, and I've got, this is actually not a laptop. It's a little Microsoft Surface Pro 6, I think. And it has one USB port, and I've got a USB to Ethernet adapter plugged in, and that's my black cable. And so that is the connection from this laptop to the internet. And so right now we have in front of us a speed test, and we're going to go ahead and run this speed test now and see what the speed is, because this is our connection to the internet. And you can see it's starting the speed test, and the first thing it's going to tell me is the ping. And it's going to tell me the ping. Now the reason why these two ads over here are black is because they're really green. And we must have chroma key on or something. Let's see. Let's make sure we don't have that on. Yeah, there we go. That's more like it. That's what it really looks like. There we go. That must have been left over from another time. We're still getting the ping here. And if we scroll down a little bit, we can see that this is our AT&T internet. That's my IP address. We're connected with Coast Connect, whatever the heck that is, in Poplarville, Mississippi, a major metropolitan area of Mississippi, no doubt. But that is our connect, and we are connecting. We are connecting right there. We're waiting for the ping to come in and tell us how long it takes for the signal to get from AT&T to Coast Connect. There we go. It only took 4,094 milliseconds to get to Poplarville, Mississippi. And we're beginning our download test. Oh my gosh, download test error. I've gotten this error like 15 times. You would think I would give up on something like that, but I didn't. So this internet is between a laptop and Poplarville, Mississippi, over this point-to-point system is so slow it won't even run a speed test. It is a 4,000 millisecond. That's only 4 seconds, but it really seemed longer than that. 4,000 millisecond ping. Generally a ping is like, 10, 20, 30, 40 milliseconds, something like that. Let's do a ping on this guy right here. We'll do a speed test. There we go, speed test. Hope this doesn't mess up the live stream here. And this one goes to Wavefly in Mobile, Alabama. And 3, 2, 1, waiting on a ping. Ping is 45 seconds. Okay, so we're not going to go any farther with that. So the ping is 100 times more on my little guy here than it is on my main PC because I'm going through the point-to-point wireless. Now, I have researched, I'm sure there must be something that I'm doing wrong, but I've researched all the information I can find on this particular setup. The brand is Qi-Fi, Qwfi, Qi-Fi, maybe, Qi-Fi. And it is, it's not cutting it. Now, my radios are what, 15 feet apart, 12, 15 feet apart. Maybe they're too close together. Maybe I need to, to send one down the street somewhere. And I may try that again sometime when I've got a little time. But these are not passing the test. They might. Oh, the other thing I've noticed is here on the laptop is that on occasion I'll get a little notice. Oh no, I don't get a notice here. I get a notice on my PC that says, let's see if we can just go up a little bit here. There we go. This is my show today. And I'll get a little notice right here in TeamViewer that says, hey, Tom, your laptop just signed in. Well, it should be signed in all the time. It's a Ethernet connection. It's not anything fancy. It should be Ethernet signed in all the time, but about every 5 minutes I'll get a note. So apparently the connection, not only is it slow, but it's intermittent. So there we go. And I did my best to line these radios up, point to point. Nothing they have to burn through. They're pointed at each other. But so yeah. The minimum distance is not mentioned in the manual. The manual is the manual is minimum. That's what's minimum. The manual is minimum. And it's really funny because these folks have got numerous videos on YouTube that basically just say the same thing over and over again. They've been out on the market for a while. I think I picked these up off of Amazon. The other thing that's worth noting about these, if you're thinking about, the fact, number one, that I'm an idiot, and obviously I'm screwing it up. But number two, we realized last week that these are not gigabit connections on the radio. The RJ45 jacks are 100 meg connections. So the best we would get from this would be 100 megs. And you say, okay, well, the best you're going to get from it is 100 megs, which really means about 85. So probably wouldn't be able to get a full NDI connection. But what I had hoped today was to be able to pull my PTZ Optics 20X PTZ, which has NDI HX, and see if I couldn't connect that, because then I could get, HX is like, 16 megabits per second. But I think even that would be I can't even get a speed test to run. And I remember when I did point to point, 10 years ago on probably a 5 megabit a second connection. I was getting pretty much every piece of 5 megs. So whatever the modem was getting, I was getting on the point to point. Now, Hoken has noted in the chat that the NanoStation that he worked with worked very poorly under 60 feet. So maybe I've got these, again, I've got these guys too close together. Let me just try, just to be crazy for a second, let me just try pointing one of them so that it's not pointing at the other. Let's see if we don't get a little difference there, that they are not pointing directly at each other now. So what can I do? Can I get back to this camera and let you see my laptop as we go back and try another speed test? Yeah, there we go. And again, it's not really a laptop, but that's okay. All right, so let's refresh this and see if we can get the page to refresh. Yeah, let's check yeah, we've still got internet. So there we go there. The page is refreshing. Doesn't look like it's much faster. Maybe while it does that, I'll go across to the other side of the room, and maybe I can get the other radio to point off into the distance a different direction. Sit tight 1 second. Just one moment. So now they're not pointed at each other in no shape or form. Maybe that's not the same thing as moving them 60 feet away, but all right, so now this guy is pointed off in an odd direction, and we'll go back here. We've loaded the page. We're finding an optimal server. And I don't know if you can see, it's still spinning here in the top, indicating that it's still working. We're not really loading the page at this point because there'll be some ads that'll load here and here as it finds its optimal server. We're still connected down here, so we can see we've got internet access, but it doesn't look like it's very strong internet access. Oh, there we go. We got a New Orleans server, so let's see if we can do something with this New Orleans server. And we're waiting for that little guy to turn yellow, and it did, giving us a ping. And we'll see, we're still connecting. And let's see if we can go up just a tad. There we go. Yep. So it's AT&T here to AT&T there, connecting, and the ping. And again, the cameras are now pointed not at each other. Don't know if this is really going to make a difference or not, but we'll get that. We'll come back to that in just a second and let you see what it is. I'll keep an eye out for it. Even though this experiment hasn't worked very, very well, and obviously I need to make one more go at it, but from a greater distance, and I'm happy to do that. I think I'd like to try this with a point-to-point system that's capable of transmitting gigabit. And I, again, may have to set it up, outside or something like that. I tried to do it live here in the studio so that we could play with it. There we go, 4,317 on our ping. So we haven't improved ourselves. Okay, so we obviously have to try something else there. I'll try to get some gear in the next week or two and begin to look at that. If you're thinking about football, American football for the fall, and you're thinking that you want to upgrade your system, I can't make a recommendation on the point-to-point wireless yet, but I can recommend that you have a look at our 4-port HDMI Thunderbolt box. I should have brought one off the shelf. Basically, it's just a small little box, probably smaller than this box, probably half the size of this box actually, that plugs into power, plugs into Thunderbolt, and then 4 HDMI cameras can plug into it, and it will give you, especially for a laptop with Thunderbolt, it will give you the ability to bring 4 cameras in for a multi-camera production. We've got those in our website, and we also have, don't normally, but I found a lot of laptops, brand new laptops on sale that have Thunderbolt, and so we'll be bundling those together in a package and putting them in our website, in our web store soon. So if you're looking for a setup that would include 4 camera input, but in a laptop format, we'll have something for you there. And we're playing with a lunchbox chassis that's not quite the bulletproof kind that I was describing earlier. This is actually more of a lightweight aluminum and plastic chassis. It has the monitor built into the chassis. It has a handle on the chassis. And basically you build the whole PC inside the chassis and then use a wireless mouse and keyboard. Comes in a little bag. I'm going to go ahead and finish out my prototype here and maybe get a chance to show it to you next week or the week after, because that's worth a look too. That'll be a fun little workstation to move around, and the kind of thing you can use out in the field, and you can also use in the studio. Yep. So that's the show for today. Great story and another failed attempt at point-to-point. But hang around in the chat, and I want to take your comments and questions, and I'll be right back. Got to push the right button on my handy dandy X-Keys XK80. Okay, so Hawkins says, well, he asked what the minimum distance, you heard me respond to that, the minimum distance, and his minimum distance was about 60 feet, and that he was getting 450 megabits per second. Well, you can darn right, you can use that for several, maybe up to 3 NDI cameras. And that wasn't enough, so he switched over to fiber. So that's probably a good switch. But there's nothing like a situation where you need an internet connection and you don't have internet, but you can get some internet from somebody within a half a mile or so. This would be a great way to get a fixed internet connection. The other thought I had is that if you're in a football stadium and you had a pair of these point-to-point wireless radios, you could mount one in the press box and maybe one down in the end zone on the scoreboard. And then you could put a camera on the scoreboard, a PTZ camera on the scoreboard that could give you those end zone shots of, kickoff, field goals, and then any kind of activity that's down towards the end zone. So I think that's what I'd hope to be able to do with something like this. But obviously these radios are not going to be fast enough, at least not with a full NDI camera. But if I can get them working, I'm going to try them at my locals. In fact, maybe I'll just haul them out there and try them out there. I'll have to work with somebody on that. Yep. That's what I would like. That's what we should do. That's what we should do. Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments about point-to-point or troubleshooting vMix for what you think may or may not be Aha, Huddle Sideline is using the nanostations. That's good. Well, we may have to take a look at the nanostation then. That is a ubiquity device. Yes. Yes, there we go. And that's exactly what he used it for, as an end zone camera. I knew it wasn't an original idea. Hardly anything is original. Although, you know, you never know. You never know. There we go. Well, it's been great hanging out with you guys today. I appreciate it. All of a sudden I was getting a high-pitched buzz that sounded like it was coming from one of these radios. It's a pleasure hanging out with you guys today. I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me. And I need to go back to work because I've got some folks waiting on some PCs here. And they don't build themselves. They don't build themselves. Anyway, thanks for watching. And we will see you. When will we see you? We'll see you next week. Yeah. Oh, hold it. One more comment. Trying to slip in under the wire. Ed says, we've been using Teradek devices for streaming. Not many problems for us. For the streaming, yes. And you've been using Teradek to stream directly to a remote. Yep. As that would be a cell service. Yep. Good. Thanks for sharing, Ed. Yeah. All right. See you later. Oh, hold on. There we go. Thanks for watching.